G'day everyone, Brian here. It's pretty cold where I am at the moment, so I've got the big jacket on to try to keep warm. For those in Queensland, I know you're enjoying warmer weather. Well, we've talked about Hannah, we've talked about Samuel, and one of the other great characters in the book of 1 Samuel is Saul. He became the king. He became the first king. But if you know something about the book of 1 Samuel, you'll know that he wasn't a great king. So you might ask the question, well, how did he become a king in the first place? Well, let me tell you. The people were asking for a king. Now, this is a distressing development in the history of Israel. You see, up till now, in this period of their history, they've been a theocracy, which means that God is their king. And then, through God, certain leaders would be raised up to lead the people for a period of time. But the people had grown tired of that, and they wanted a king. In fact, the book of Judges concludes with the statement, Israel had no king, and everyone did as they saw fit. And so they'd reached the point where in their history they wanted a king. Now, in one sense, that's not bad. The Bible before this had alluded to the time that there would be a king. But the distressing development is that they wanted a king so that they could be like the other nations. And what's wrong with that? Well, like the other nations, the kings paid no respect to the God who had given them their power. And Saul, sadly, seemed to fit that bill. He didn't start that way. He started seemingly with great humility. He recognized he was from the smallest tribe, from the smallest clan, from that smallest tribe. He felt ill-equipped. When he was anointed, he didn't tell anyone. When the time came to choose a king, they looked for Saul and couldn't find him. He was hiding amongst the baggage. And so there's this humility which is no longer seen as he continues in his time as a king. In fact, his jealousy took hold and his last years were devastating. In Saul, we see some dangers for ourselves. You see, the great stories of the Bible often take someone from a low place and put them in a high place. You know, the classic statement, the first shall be last, the last shall be first. And Saul was one of those. But when he was raised up and put into that high place, he wanted all the power. He seemed to forget that he was still under God's authority. There's a danger there for us, that we in our wealth, we in our well-being can think we don't need God anymore, that we have taken God's place. But we can learn from Saul that that's not the case, and we will still need to answer to God. We can find redemption, we can find salvation in Jesus, and Saul is a good example for us of how bad things can go, even though we seem to have been chosen by God. Well, friends, tomorrow we'll look at another character in this great book, one of the other key characters, and I'll look forward to seeing you then. Bye-bye.